Libya, former Italian colony, becomes an independent state, and the Emir Idris el-Senussi is crowned its king, acclaimed by crowds of loyal subjects. The new ruler, a staunch friend of Britain, takes the oath of allegiance as the head of a country which it is hoped will play a leading role in Middle Eastern affairs.
Idris' government was increasingly unpopular by the latter 1960s. It had exacerbated Libya's traditional regional and tribal divisions by centralizing the country's federal system to take advantage of the country's oil wealth. Corruption and entrenched systems of patronage were widespread throughout the oil industry. Arab nationalism was increasingly popular, and protests flared up following Egypt's 1967 defeat in the Six-Day War with Israel. Idris' administration was seen as pro-Israeli due to its alliance with the Western powers. Anti-Western riots broke out in Tripoli and Benghazi, while Libyan workers shut down oil terminals in solidarity with Egypt. By 1969, the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, was expecting segments of Libya's armed forces to launch a coup. Although claims have been made that they knew of Gaddafi's Free Officers movement, they have since claimed ignorance, stating that they were instead monitoring Abdulaziz Shalhai's Black Boots revolutionary group. Shalhai, who effectively served as Idris' chief of staff, and his brother Omar were the sons of Idris' former chief advisor Ibrahim Shalhai, who had been murdered by Queen Fatima's nephew in the fall of 1954. After their father's assassination, they became the favorites of Idris. In mid-1969, Idris traveled abroad to spend the summer in Turkey and Greece amid widespread rumors of an abdication or a British-backed coup by the Shalhai brothers on September 5. Gaddafi's Free Officers, recognizing this as their last chance to preempt the Shalhis in overthrowing the monarchy, initiating Operation Jerusalem. If Gaddafi's Free Officers had not preempted the Shalhis, they would have almost certainly been defeated by the combined forces of Abdulaziz Shalhi, the deputy commander of Libya's army, and the prominent families in Cyrenaica that supported the Shalhi family. On September 1, Gaddafi's Free Officers occupied airports, police depots, radio stations, and government offices in Tripoli and Benghazi. Gaddafi took control of the Burqa barracks in Benghazi, while Umar Maheshi occupied Tripoli barracks and Jalaud seized the city's anti-aircraft batteries. Queldi Hamidi took over the Tripoli radio station and was sent to arrest Crown Prince Saeed Hassan Arida al-Mahdi as-Senussi and force him to relinquish his claim to the throne. They met no serious resistance and wielded little violence against the monarchists.
Backed by a handful of officers, the then 27-year-old captain toppled the corrupt but pro-Western monarchy of King Idris. In his first public address, Gaddafi challenged the two powers that dominated Libya.
لتجعل كلمة الحق هي العليا وكلمة أعداء الشعب هي السفلى. إن الشعب الإنجليزي يدرك تماما إن قاعدته باتت في حيز العدم بعد ثورة الشعب الليبي، ونحن ندرك أيضا إن الشعب الأمريكي الذي يحتفظ بقاعدة فوق أرضنا.
Once Gaddafi removed the monarchical government, he announced the foundation of the Libyan Arab Republic. Addressing the populace by radio, he proclaimed an end to the reactionary and corrupt regime, the stench of which has sickened and horrified us all. Due to the coup's bloodless nature, it was initially labeled the White Revolution, although was later renamed the 1 September Revolution, after the date on which it occurred. Gaddafi insisted that the Free Officers' coup represented a revolution, marking the start of widespread change in the socio-economic and political nature of Libya. He proclaimed that the revolution meant freedom, socialism, and unity, and over the coming years implemented measures to achieve this. The 12-member Central Committee of the Free Officers proclaimed themselves the Revolutionary Command Council, RCC, the government of the new republic. Lieutenant Gaddafi became RCC chairman, and therefore the de facto head of state, also appointing himself to the rank of colonel and becoming commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Jalloud became prime minister, while a civilian council of ministers headed by Suleiman Mafribi was founded to implement RCC policy. Libya's administrative capital was moved from Al-Bayda to Tripoli. Although theoretically a collegial body operating through consensus building, Gaddafi dominated the RCC. Some of the others attempted to constrain what they saw as his excesses. Gaddafi remained the government's public face, with the identities of the other RCC members only being publicly revealed on January 10, 1970. All young men from, typically rural, working and middle-class backgrounds, none had university degrees. In this way they were distinct from the wealthy, highly educated conservatives who previously governed the country. The coup completed, the RCC proceeded with their intentions of consolidating the revolutionary government and modernizing the country. They purged monarchists and members of Idris Senussi clan from Libya's political world and armed forces. Gaddafi believed this elite were opposed to the will of the Libyan people and had to be expunged. People's courts were founded to try various monarchist politicians and journalists, many of whom were imprisoned, although none executed. Idris was sentenced to execution in absentia. 3 months after Gaddafi came to power, the army minister and interior minister, both of whom were from the eastern Barca region, tried to overthrow him in a failed coup. In 1970, Idris' great-nephew Ahmed al-Senussi tried to instigate another coup against Gaddafi. The monarchist plot was foiled in August and Ahmed was sentenced to death, commuted in 1988 and pardoned by Gaddafi in 2001.
The first day of the revolution, a couple of Range Rovers drove up to the U.S. Embassy. They said, "It's time for you to meet Brother Muammar." He shared the Arab view that our objective was to maintain client states throughout the region, using our military bases and using economic aid and other inducements.
Gaddafi told the American diplomats that the giant Wheelus Air Force Base and its 5,000 airmen were no longer welcome. The United States lost a strategic base in the heart of the Arab world.
The RCC's early economic policy has been characterized as being state capitalist in orientation. Many initiatives were established to aid entrepreneurs and develop a Libyan bourgeoisie. Seeking to expand the cultivatable acreage in Libya, in September 1969 the government launched a green revolution to increase agricultural productivity so that Libya could rely less on imported food. The hope was to make Libya self-sufficient in food production. All land that had either been expropriated from Italian settlers or which was not in use was repossessed and redistributed. Irrigation systems were established along the northern coastline and around various inland oases. Production costs often surpassed the value of the produce and thus Libyan agricultural production remained in deficit, relying heavily on state subsidies. With crude oil as the country's primary export, Gaddafi sought to improve Libya's oil sector. In October 1969, he proclaimed the current trade terms unfair, benefiting foreign corporations more than the Libyan state, and threatened to decrease production. In December, Jalloud successfully increased the price of Libyan oil. In 1970, other OPEC states followed suit, leading to a global increase in the price of crude oil. The RCC followed with the Tripoli Agreement of March 20, 1971, in which they secured income tax, back payments, and better pricing from the oil corporations. These measures brought Libya an estimated $1 billion in additional revenues in its first year. Increasing state control over the oil sector, the RCC began a program of nationalization, starting with the expropriation of British Petroleum's share of the British Petroleum NB Huntsire field in December 1971. In September 1973, it was announced that all foreign oil producers active in Libya were to see 51% of their operation nationalized, including the stake of Nelson Bunker Hunt, son of H.L. Hunt, who had played a key role in the discovery of oil in Libya. Among the companies that were partially nationalized was Armand Hammer's Occidental Petroleum. For Gaddafi, this was an essential step towards socialism. It proved an economic success. While gross domestic product had been $3.8 billion in 1969, it had risen to $13.7 billion in 1974 and $24.5 billion in 1979. In turn, the Libyan standard of life greatly improved over the first decade of Gaddafi's administration, and by 1979 the average per capita income was at $8,170, up from $40 in 1951. This was above the average of many industrialized countries like Italy and the UK. In 1969, the government also declared that all foreign-owned banks must either close down or convert to joint stock operations.